Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is Roger Connect, your host, and I've been working with accounting professionals now for more than 20 years, helping them actually have the premier accounting firm in their area, offering quality accounting services and getting paid what they're worth. This podcast is actually dedicated to helping you find those things you need from the experts to implement in your business to ensure that you're offering quality accounting services and retaining the clients that you deserve, helping them actually run their businesses more effectively and getting you paid as you should be. Now, with all those things, we'll cover topics such as marketing, sales, pricing. We'll cover things that may include such as the services you're offering, onboarding those clients effectively, working with them so that you can retain them longer and get the referrals you deserve. So for that, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast and listen to our other episodes. Today, I happen to have an excellent guest, someone I'm excited to have on the show and someone I was hoping to have on for some time now. It's Debra and Angilletta. She happens to be the person that you need to be familiar with when it comes to sales. Debra works with accountants and bookkeepers who want clients to see their value, charge more for their services, but are struggling with sales calls. So she has Sales Mastery. It's her personal and proven online e-course that shows you how to become more consultative so you can become the go-to expert and get the right clients to easily say yes to your offer. Now, she's been spending 30 years in the sales trenches to develop this with over 20,000 sales calls. She knows exactly what works and what doesn't when it comes to showing your value versus talking about it. Debra is still active in the sales trenches, closing business for her company, as well as other multi-million-dollar companies such as Profit First Professionals and Nemo Media Group. So, Debra, welcome to the show.
Roger, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
This is going to be fun. We're going to have a good conversation. So I'm going to start with a really basic question that I'm curious your thoughts on. What is the difference for our listeners between marketing and selling?
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that one. Okay, so this is something that has a little bit of a bad rap because everybody thinks it's the same thing. So the difference between marketing and selling, and this is the terminology, business development is marketing. That's where somebody goes out and what we say, goes out in the field and picks the weeds for you. They are finding the people for you to go ahead and look at your company or your services. Sales is different. Sales is actually having the conversation once they've come to you to be able to bring them on as a client and be able to close the sale. So that's the easiest way that I can describe the difference between those two. And it's a great question because everybody gets that mixed up.
You know, I love how simplistic you made that. The confusion a lot of accounting professionals have is really around those very essential parts of the process, but they confuse them. And so I liked how you described marketing. It's going out and getting the contact, making that initial identification of the prospective prospect. But once you've now identified them, they've raised their hand, they're now in your system, they're part of your CRM. Once you know who they are, there's now a nurturing process and a sales process that we need to do. And honestly, I've worked with many accountants that really excel at marketing and struggle at selling, and vice versa. They are great at marketing, but or vice versa, they're great at marketing and not at selling. So I think I said that right. But either way, the point is we need to have both skill sets because we need to be finding the people and converting them. So with that, how do you get a prospect to understand your value moving into that sales realm?
Yeah. And so this is something where a lot of the accountants and bookkeepers that I talk to, and I talk to them all the time, and that's how I got into this because I work with so many of them on a daily basis, is that I hear a lot of their conversations. And most unfortunately, most accountants and bookkeepers are staying, like how I like to say, on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
They're asking the basic questions about people's businesses. How many entries do you have each month? What's your cash flow like? Like really, really basic things. But they have such an opportunity because they can deep dive into what's going on for their prospect. And they tend not to go there. And what's really interesting is after I have the conversation with these accountants and bookkeepers and how they say this is that, I think about these things, but I don't say them. And so what I like to say is take your inside voice, whatever you're thinking at the time when you're on the phone with a prospect that you've never said out loud, and finally say it out loud because this is what your prospects are looking for. They need somebody different to be talking to. You need to become memorable and not like everybody else out there. They want you to deep dive and ask those pertinent questions for what's going on in their business, because you have to remember, a lot of these business owners are working in isolation. They're making decisions by themselves. And then when they come to you as the expert, wow, they can see you as a partner in their business. That's how you start to lay that foundation.
I love it. I like that inner voice idea that you just mentioned, because so often when I'm working with accounting professionals, they tend to focus on the features of what it is they do. They enjoy the work. They like the satisfaction of finalizing a month, closing it out, and having the financial reports be accurate. And they enjoy talking about the need for that and the value that can come from it. But honestly, they do a poor job really introducing the benefits that the client can get. And the thing that I thought was good about your inner voice idea is really, what are the questions you should be asking versus what are you saying to the client? What they need to hear are questions from you to get them to kind of think about what it is that could be better or different with your services that would allow them to make more informed business decisions with the financial information you can be providing. So that was really good. So what is getting your sales skills dialed in, and why is it so important?
So why you want to make sure that you really get your sales game together is because, and I want everybody to think about this for a moment, because it's something that rings so true, but I don't think anybody's ever actually said it out loud. So think about it this way. Sales is the only thing that causes money to move. I'm
Wow.
going to say that one more time.
Yeah.
Sales is the only thing that causes money to move. So start to look at that in the broader sense of your life, right? Whether you're going to the grocery store and you're shopping, and then all of a sudden you see a new product that might be something great to make for dinner, right? We're always wondering what to make for dinner. Boom, they've just made a sale. Do you see? Everything in our world is a sale. Our kids are making sales with us all the time when they are asking for something. And if we oblige them, that's a sale. So the reason for getting this, really looking at it from that perspective of saying, you know what, sales makes the world go round. Now, and I know when I say that word, sometimes the connotations come up. Oh, but sales feels so icky. It just, I don't feel comfortable with it, right? But at its core, we are making sales all day long. So once you decide to step into this, it becomes much easier to bring into your life.
That's so good, because just like you said, makes the world go round. We have 9 principles that we focus on. And the very first one is nothing happens until you make a sale. The analogy that I always look at is these accountants, the bookkeepers, the tax preparers, they can be excellent at what they do, but like an athlete, if you're practicing all the time and making, let's say in basketball, all the free throws, doing the 3-pointers, you're great. But at practice, that's where you're excelling. You can't perform in the game on the court with the stress and with the competition. It doesn't matter. And so we've got to take these excellent accounting professionals and get them to comfortably convert these contacts that they're making into being paying customers. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter unless you're getting paid for the work. So you're right. It's got to be dialed in. So what's the best way to finally get paid what you're worth?
So one of the things that, and it's so amazing when you figure this out, one of the things that happens on a sales call, and here's one of the hesitations with people having a sales call in the accounting and bookkeeping industry, is that they don't like feeling like they have to convince somebody to do business with them.
Mm.
And so that word convince, and even when I say it and it comes out of my mouth, I even get, that icky chills that come over me. And I
Don't
feel
cringe.
like, ooh, I am cringing when I say that word. So when you do sales right and you turn it into a conversation, you hold care for your prospect, you ask thought-provoking questions,
Mm-hmm.
there's no convincing in sales. And that's kind of like the dirty little secret. So it's just about having that conversation. But then going back to your question, the best way to get paid what you're worth as you're moving through that thought-provoking questioning of your client or your prospect, what you eventually have to get to is this magic thing called the ROI, which is the return on investment. Now, that prospect came to you for some particular reason. They have a problem. You are the solution. But the key in that conversation, and this is the piece that most accountants and bookkeepers don't incorporate in their conversations, this is the missing piece of the conversation. It's the ROI. You have to be able to pull out what's that number one thing that your prospect is dealing with, that if you helped solve, would create the biggest impact in their
Mm-hmm.
business? And you ask that explicitly. And when you do that, the floodgates open, the cream rises to the top. And whatever problems they were talking about in the conversation, all of a sudden, you're able to hone in on that number one thing that's going to create an impact. Then now you can start moving towards the ROI of that conversation. Do you want me to give you a little bit of an example, Roger? Because sometimes
Please,
it's
please.
helpful. All right.
Yes.
So I'll give you an example of a sales conversation I had with a gentleman. And so he came to me and said, listen, Deb, I want to work with you, but I'm having all these troubles. I'm having problems with cash flow, this, that, and the other thing. And I dropped that big question. I said, all right, Chad, what's the number one problem right now you're having that, if solved, will create the biggest impact in your business? Now, first of all, he had a visceral reaction. He let out this big sigh. He was like, that's a great question, he said. He took a moment, he pondered, and he said, you know what, Deb? I've been arrears in my taxes for 2 years. I never have money to pay it. It keeps me up at night. I have absolute angst, and I want to make sure that in my financial plan, my bookkeeping, everything, I want to make sure I always have money to pay my taxes. How do we do that? Boom. There we go. Now we've got that number one thing that's important to him. And on top of that, I went deeper, right? Once again, our inquisitive nature, let's go deeper. How much was he in arrear in taxes? $50,000. How much was he going to owe for the next year? Unknown, right? But he said, I always want to have $100,000 available. And so, yeah, I did look through his financials to make sure that he could achieve that over a period of time. But that's what the ROI is, right? In that conversation, we were able to derive that once I partner with him and work with him, the ROI is him having $100,000 at all times to pay for his taxes. So whatever he pays for me, the $100,000 in the tax account is going to be the thing that bonds us together. And that's the ROI of our partnership.
So I'm loving that you shared that example, because I took a few notes here and I just want to kind of recap what I was hearing you say, because I think it's important for our listeners to kind of dissect this conversation. The first thing is you were asking questions, and by asking questions, you're showing now hopefully a genuine interest in their current situation. And in some conversations, they may never have experienced this before from an accounting professional. You're showing interest in their business, their financial situation, and they're happy to start talking about it as they become comfortable with you. The second thing that I thought was really good is you got to the pain. Many business decisions, especially financials decisions, are based upon pain and resolving that. And so if we can get to that emotional element, they're more inclined to make the decision to go with you. And you went in with the purpose of, I want to ask for the sale. And so the conversation's going that direction. The third thing is you brought up ROI. This is huge. And for each of the potential customers, it's going to be different. The common ones that we want to be listening for may exist in time. They're consumed with time that's taking them away from what they love and enjoy. By hiring you, you're going to be able to free up time. Another one is cash flow, money in the bank. They're just struggling to actually put things together. They're selling, but there's just not the money there. The third is profit. They're doing all this work, but for what? They'd like to see with your help you can be profit. And then the one that you also addressed with this example is peace of mind. They're dealing with these tax liabilities, these taxes that they have to pay, and they want to know that there's a path out of this, and that with your help, you're going to be able to get them there. Identifying that pain and defining the ROI gives you the position you specifically need to be in to ask for the sale. Hey, Chad, why don't we do this? Let's get started. This is how much it's going to be in closing the deal. So perfect example. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm glad that we went through that, because at least people can see the mechanics of that. Because I know accountants and bookkeepers, they love the what's the step-by-step process. And so that was a great recap. Thank you, Roger.
You bet. So now here's the thing. A lot of people, as accounting professionals, they offer great services, but they experience sometimes what can be referred to as imposter syndrome. What is that, and how can we address that today?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Feeling like a fraud when you're trying to make a sale and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. So here's one thing that can really help you just ditch the imposter syndrome and put it to the side and never have to come back to it again. So one of the things I like to say is that to overcome imposter syndrome, you first have to sell yourself. So let me show you how this works. You're having a conversation with a prospect. You ask all the right questions. You get whatever that number one problem is. You figure out the ROI. Now, I'm not saying you have to close the deal on the first call, not by any means,
Yeah.
but at least make the second call and say, all right, let me synthesize all of this. Let me take a peek at your books and let me see what I can come up for you. When you come away from that call, what you want to do is go ahead and put together your proposal or your statement of work or whatever it is that you're going to put together, your engagement letter, right? Map everything out of the services that you're going to offer them. And now step into your prospect's shoes and sell yourself on what you just put together. Does it make sense? Does your offer make sense based on all of the features and benefits and what the final investment is going to be? Now, let's look at what the desired outcome is. What's the number one problem you're going to solve? And what's the ROI you're going to be able to create? Let's go back to the Chad example. This is perfect. If Chad wants a $100,000 outcome and I'm going to charge him $15,000 to do it, right? You can already see the ROI. And so when you look at your own proposal and step into the prospect's shoes and put it next to the ROI, now it becomes a no-brainer. You're like, oh my gosh, that's a really good deal. Like I would take that all day long. And so it's a confidence game. And that is a way you can boost your confidence going into that presentation and that sale, because you know if you would take that deal and you come to that call as confident as you are, that prospect is going to take your lead and be able to say yes easily to your proposal. And the reason why is because your proposal is going to make sense. A lot of times I see bookkeepers and accountants lobbing these proposals over the fence, sending them by email like, hey, this is what it's going to cost, right? That's how they see it. But you always have to pair a proposal with a conversation and put context around it and always bring it back to the ROI, because that's how your prospect is thinking. What is the value I'm going to get out of working with this person? If you're able to fill that gap, you're going to get the business.
Yeah, you're looking at the cost gain comparison. So that's the ROI. Now, you said something that was so important that I don't want people to not hear this. You said, not your words, but you said, would you buy from yourself? Is what you're saying convincing enough that you would actually purchase from what it is you're communicating? If you can actually sell to yourself, you would have, in essence, a 25% closing ratio. Those people that are familiar with personality assessments and so forth know that there's traditionally 4 types of people. And if you're convincing to yourself enough that you would buy from what you're putting forth, then you're at least going to resonate with 25% of the market. And that's a 1 in 4 chance you're going to be getting the business as you're talking to people. So all of a sudden, if you're in a situation where you're conveying the information in enough way that you're meeting your needs to make a purchase, then you're on the right track.
Yeah. And listen, we've checked a lot of boxes already, Roger. We're not convincing people to do business with us. We're asking deep questions. We're already stepping into that advisor role. We're positioning ourselves as a partner. We are finding the number one problem. We're creating the ROI, and then we're selling ourselves first before we even attempt to put the proposal in front of our clients and our prospects, because now it makes sense. Look at how many boxes we've already ticked off in our favor.
Perfect. Now, the imposter syndrome, just before we leave that, the likelihood that a person, when making this presentation, this proposal of, this is in the future, how do I know I'm going to deliver on this? How do I know I'm going to make a difference? I know that can sometimes still kind of hang over that sales offer as they're putting it forth. Do you have any final words on the imposter syndrome itself?
Yeah. So when people think that they get nervous about delivering, like, well, I can't guarantee this. No, I'm not asking you to guarantee anything. But here's what I know about accountants and bookkeepers. I know that they can guarantee their effort. And I know that they're so good at what they do. And let me tell you, I saw them at their best and brightest when we started to get into COVID and everything else with the businesses. Like, they really stepped up and showed their value. I know they've got it there. But your clients are going to see that by stepping into that role and having the confidence that you bring 100%, right? They're the other part of the equation. If you tell them and advise them what to do and they do it, you're going to have a harmonious relationship and a great outcome. but things always change, right? You have no control over that. You know, you bring 110%, and that is what's going to bond that sale and also bring you to the finish line with your client. That is something you can guarantee.
Perfect. The way I've always tried to define it for people is confidence and competence. If you've got the confidence to look a business owner in the eye and say, I can take care of these needs, that's huge because they'll see that confidence in your eyes and say, you know what, you're the right person for this. And then the competence steps in when you have the ability to go back to the office and now do the work competently and do it in an efficient way, and it's accurate for them to then be able to use in their business to run it more intelligently. So that is, I think, an excellent summation that we've just had of imposter syndrome, because I know it comes up and I'm glad we were able to address it. But the next thing I want to talk about is, you've been doing this for so long. Have you identified kind of a proven approach to standing out from the competition?
Yeah, and it's so funny because there is a lot of competition out there, right? I'm sure you're talking to people. They're saying, "Oh, well, I'm talking to this one, I'm talking to that one, and I want to see what you have to offer." How you really wow people is, once again, just asking those better questions, those deeper questions, using that inside voice, just going to the next level. And so how this looks is being able to ask those questions of, not just looking at the accounting and bookkeeping, but go a little deeper on their business. So tell me a little bit about your business. What are your goals for the upcoming year? Like, really take that opportunity to deep dive and ask them a lot about their business. Let me tell you, business owners love to have a platform to talk about themselves. Give it to them. That's one thing people always ask. Well, what if they're talking too much? I'm like, that's great. Keep them talking, right? So it's a matter of just asking better questions, consultative questions, more advisory questions, really get into their business and be really authentically interested in asking those thoughtful questions. Because I'll tell you, the competition is just going back to those surfacey questions and then giving them a price, and it means nothing to them. They're making themselves a commodity. You are not a commodity. You are a specialist. And the questions that you ask will match the level that you're playing at.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for that. That is so good. When I'm working with people, I actually explain it in a similar way. It's building rapport. And in the hour-long meeting that you typically have with an individual, the first 15 minutes should be spent asking genuine curiosity questions about them. The more they can talk, the better, exactly like you said. Because what we want to do is we want to find out, why are they in business? What do they do? How do they make money? In fact, if you're at their location, ask to be taken on a tour and kind of shown the facilities. And what happens is the light turns on in them, and what they experience that's different from you than the competition is you're taking time to learn about them and ask them about the one thing that they love talking about the most, and it's them and their business. And so they're going to get excited, and those endorphins, as they kick in, help them build that rapport, that comfort, that trust with you that allows you to actually get that sell so much easier. So you said it right. You've got to just be asking those questions and showing a genuine interest in their business. How do you make this whole selling process seamless, though? I mean, there's steps, and am I doing it right? How do you make it seamless to close more engagements with ease?
Yeah, most accountants and bookkeepers say that they don't know what to say or how to say it. And so, I know we're going to be talking about something at the end. I actually have something for your listeners today, and it is a list of 6 questions that you can ask on every conversation. And so when you have the right questions to ask, it takes the stress out of, what do I say? How do I say it? And what the great thing is they're in the right order. So when you do that, you are able to drive your prospect through a very thoughtful process that's sequential, right? So nothing's out of order and nothing feels like it's out of place. It just feels like a very, very nice flowing conversation. But what I will tell you is what makes selling seamless and closing more engagements is understanding the objections that can come up in a conversation, right? So once we know what to say and how to say it, then a lot of times we get very, very, we have a lot of angst, right? We've got that nervousness in our belly and we're saying, oh my gosh, no objections, no objections, no whammies, just say yes, right? Kind of a thing. But I think the important thing is that when it comes to objections and understanding and fielding those out before you make your offer, That is the key to making a seamless close, because then there's no surprises at the end. And to tell you the truth, there's only 3 objections, and it's only 3. Like, you can disguise it 50,000 different ways. It boils down to only 3 objections your prospects have. They object to money, they object to time, and the third objection is, I've got to go ask somebody else for permission to say yes to you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we've got something for your listeners, and it addresses all 3 of those objections before you even put the proposal in front of them. It's genius.
One of the things that I think is important to bring up, just because you've mentioned this objection issue, is the fact that objections are really a good sign. It's the indication that they're curious enough about your product or service that they'd like to figure out how to make it possible, but they have questions. These aren't objections. They're not necessarily trying to put you down. They're trying to clarify so that they can have the information they need to make their decision. And so these are buying signs at the end of the day. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. So it's not a bad thing. And we tend to put these connotations on things, right? We got the convincing out of the way. The objections aren't a bad thing. It's an opportunity for you to walk alongside your prospect to talk through some of the concerns that they have, because it is a buying sign, because now they're thinking, now they're being really thoughtful with their consideration of working with you. And all you have to do is walk alongside them, ask them the pertinent questions to move them through the objections. And that's how selling becomes seamless, because it just becomes a conversation and not a convincing conversation.
Yeah. So you brought up 3 common things. You brought up the money, the time, and right now as I'm saying it, I'm forgetting. Oh, then the decision maker. I'm not the one that makes the decision. So here's the thing. Money, that's a good indication that they're not seeing the value, the cost versus gain being what they hoped it might be. And so we're needing to probably better explain the cost, better explain the value. When it's time, they may feel like this commitment might then consume more of their time than maybe necessary. So maybe there's a clarification of how involved they're going to be, what the onboarding process really is going to look like. So you can put them at ease that, no, you're going to pay me to take this away from you so you can get back to what you're good at. And then the idea of, I need to talk to someone else, I'm not the ultimate decision maker here, that's just something that says they're interested. They just need to get a little bit more buy-in on this. Now, one thing I would add to this, which, by the way, I really appreciate the simplicity, is you said working with them. The whole thing that I think is very helpful is taking the context of, we're both 2 intelligent, grown adults. We're both business owners, peer to peer. You've got a problem. You've got a need. You've got an opportunity here to do something better in your business. Let's together figure out how to make this a win-win. It's not necessarily an adversarial relationship of, you're going to lose when you say yes to my offer. This is a win-win. We want this to be a good deal so that when you're finished and you agree to this, you feel good about it. Not like I lost and I bought something I didn't want. No, it's I won and I got a good deal and I'm looking forward to this new relationship. That win-win perspective has, I think, helped a lot of people when it comes to sales, because sometimes it's thinking that the other person had to lose to say yes, and that's not true. Would you agree with that?
It's absolutely not true. I absolutely agree with that, because, and here's the thing, we've already made the win-win tangible. And we've done that through generating the ROI in the former conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've generated the ROI, you lay out what the investment is going to be in you, and then what are they going to get in return? And is it like a 2x, 5x, 10x? What is it, as opposed to the investment that they're making? So that's how you make the win-win tangible. And then that's something that makes sense to your prospect.
Just because of the win-win, I'm going to use an analogy that sometimes comes up in the trainings that I've participated in, and it's the tennis match. When you serve the ball over the net, are you surprised when they hit it back to you? Of course not. You're expecting it to come back. And so in the game of tennis, as I ask for the sell and I send that ball over your side, I'm anticipating you're going to hit it back and I'm going to have to now hit it back. It's a game. It's something that's fun. Look forward to the question, anticipate it. And if, and I'm assuming this is later on when you become more and more comfortable with sales over time, but it's almost like a game and you get to enjoy it. What are they going to say? Oh, I've never heard that one before. No, typically they're the same things over and over again, and you get more and more comfortable with those volleys, and you're able to play the game a lot more easily and be more relaxed because you're now more seasoned and an expert. But that's what we're working towards, and that's what the conversation today is about. So here's a good question, Debra. How do you create high levels of trust right from the get-go in your first call, first conversation?
And it's one pivot. And it's so funny because I get called on for sales all the time for different things. And so this is an example that I'm sure a lot of your listeners can identify with. If I have somebody, and I'll give you the example, I was looking for a new business attorney last year. And
Mhm.
so I was interviewing a couple of them and we had a free initial consultation. I get on the phone. And the first thing this gentleman does is says, "Hi, how are you?" Talking about the weather and everything else. And then this gentleman dives into talking about what he does, who he is, all his, expertise and everything else, what he does for his clients and the whole spiel. And then at the end, he wanted to know if I wanted to work with him. I'm like, you didn't ask me one question about myself. So the key here to creating trust is asking questions of your prospects. Stop talking about yourself. They don't care.
Amen.
And there is a time to share about you and your business and what you do. But whatever you can do, get them talking, because if they're talking, they are comfortable in you being the listener, right? They don't have this opportunity for people to listen to their stuff ever, right? They're the ones listening to everybody else's stuff. So if we can keep it focused on them and find the appropriate time to share what we do, but make sure we're positioning it around what they need. They don't need to know all of our expertise. They only care about the expertise we have in solving their problem.
You're right. The whole listening element here is so important. If I could really hit home what you just shared is find what questions are good ones that you like to ask, that you're genuinely interested in knowing the answer, and make them part of your repertoire in the sense that as you're having conversations, find out these things. When did they start business? Why did they start business? How do they think they're different from their competition? If there's something your customers need to know about the product, what is it? I'd like to know that. Whatever questions it is, just find out what it is that you naturally want to know and use those as part of your conversation pieces. And like Debra, you just pointed out, that's going to build that trust because you're showing a sincere interest in them. So excellent advice. So now what we want to do is these accounting professionals, many of them that we work with, they want to move more from the traditional accounting services into advisory type services, CFO advisory coaching type services. How do you help them see a way to catapult themselves, that is, into that trusted advisor role?
So there are questions that you can ask that are really easy. It's very easy to follow, and they are in a sequential order. And so giving them the questions to get them started, just so that they can start getting confidence around this, then they can start building their own curiosity questions around it. But having these core questions really get to what your prospect wants, what the number one problem is, if they're the decision maker or not, what are some of the roadblocks that would get in the way of them solving the problem by working with you, and being able to generate that ROI. The questions get them there to that point so that they can easily have a prospect say yes to their offer on the other end.
Perfect. Perfect. So, question for you. What is the most misunderstood thing about what it is you do as you work with people to help them improve their sales skills?
The most misunderstood thing, I think, is that I'll tell you, I'm not a born salesperson. I was not at all. When I first started out, funny enough, I started out in the insurance business. Like, can you imagine that? That's like chewing on cardboard. When it comes to selling insurance, it was talk about being thrown into the flames of sales. And I did not like that type of sales at all. And I was never formally trained in sales throughout my whole career. And funny enough, when I studied in college, I studied finance and economics. I was never taught sales or even knew that sales was going to be on the horizon. So I didn't know sales. I struggled with sales early on in my career. And eventually in my life, it was like your feet got put to the fire. When you're doing certain positions, you have to start embracing sales, and I had to find my own way. So I'm not a born salesperson. That's probably something that people don't know about me. And that, yes, I've done the work. Yes. And I've consolidated all of this down so I can teach other people so they don't have to go through all the countless hours of training that I did, for sure.
I find that just beautiful because I agree. These people that we're working with, the accounting professionals, sometimes they just think they don't have it in them. This isn't something that's going to come natural to me. It doesn't come natural to most anyone. It's something that you have to put a little bit of time and effort and go through the training. Salespeople have trainings. This is training for an accounting professional to sell accounting services. And so what we're talking about are those various things that in time can give the person the same confidence, the same skill. The expertise that I like to say is just as confident as you are about the accounting work you can do, you should be about your ability to sell your services, help the other person, the business owner, see value in having you take care of their accounting needs. If you can do that, you're going to excel every time. Now, here's another question. What's one of the biggest problems that you see the people you work with create for themselves to where they can't do what we're talking about?
It goes back to that confidence. They say, who am I to say this? Who am I to do this? And so what I do is I take them through a little exercise. And, when businesses started to get shut down and everything else, like it's kind of a gift for the accountants and bookkeepers, because I think that they really got to see how important they are and how critical they are to people's businesses. And I really invite everybody to step into that role. They need you so badly. You have something that they need so badly because they're good at what they do in their business. They're not good at money. They're not good at cash flows. They're not good at the accounting, and they will tell you that. And so just know that you have such a pivotal role, and let's up level it, right? That role is so important that you are able to service your clients so that your clients can service their clients at a high level and make a huge impact, because impact is important. So you are propelling your clients to make a huge impact in what they do every day. And in turn, you make that impact with your clients.
Completely agree. One of the things that I experienced just in the last few years is the realization that accounting professionals are literally for the business first responder. It's the accounting professional that can step in and quickly assess, especially with the right accounting information, where are the opportunities? What's the highest profitable item? Where the margins are, where's the cash flow and how to manage that, what to do with payables, receivables. They can triage that business so well. And we've really become, for the small business community, that business first responder that so many business owners need when things just aren't flowing and working just as they may have once done. If there's cash flows there, you're not so sensitive to all the particulars. But when things start getting tight, it's like, I need somebody to get in here. I'm not feeling well. This isn't like it used to be. And that's where the business first responder can come in and, as an accounting professional, make a difference. Here's a question for you. As you're working with accounting professionals and they're trying to figure out how to sell their services a little bit more, is there a particular personality or trait that you feel helps someone succeed at this?
You want to know what? I like to keep it real simple. If you can pick up the phone and talk to somebody, you can do sales.
Perfect.
Because I think that everybody can learn this, because if you're willing to just shift the mindset of getting out of the convincing, getting out of the ickiness of a conversation, and really looking at it differently, that it's time that you're spending with somebody, giving your expertise and really helping them on the other line. And that it's not about all of that. It is about giving a gift to your prospect and really listening. And once again, you're the expert. They are looking and clamoring for good people. I can't tell you how many times I talk to people, they're like, oh, I can't wait to unload my bookkeeper or accountant because they don't do anything for me. They're very reactive and not proactive, right?
Amen.
And so they are looking for good people like your listeners. I hear it all the time. Can you find me? They can't find the people on their own. I'm telling you, it's tough. So if you're really good at what you do not be afraid to shine your light.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's talk about goals. The big thing with sales typically comes with the hand in hand with the idea of goals. What can you share about goals?
So put a little bit more context around that for me, Roger, and then I can probably answer that a little bit better.
So one of the things that I typically address is how many businesses do you need as a client? And I don't want to get into the minutia of it, but let's assume that
Yeah.
we're talking about a bookkeeping client, and we're going to assume that the person's averaging $500 in revenue per month from a bookkeeping client, an average client. Well, if they come to me and say, I need in the coming months, I need $2,000 more revenue. Well, I'm like, well, okay, let's backwards engineer this. We know that in order to get that, you need 4 clients, and 4 clients paying you $500 a month is going to give you the 2,000 revenue that you need. But what's it going to take to get those 4 clients? Well, we know we're going to have to actually probably get let's say a 25% closing ratio. So to get 4 sales, I'm going to have to talk to 16 people. And if I'm going to talk to 16 people, I probably need to meet, say, 32 people in order to actually get the opportunity to do a one-on-one with 16 of them. So I need to meet 32 people. Well, how quickly can I find these 32 people? And this gets back into marketing, obviously.
Yeah.
But the goals of it is simply, it's not just enough to say I need $2,000 more in monthly revenue. It's, okay, what does that really mean? And it's the clarity of the goals. Now they're smart. Now they're specific. Well, if I know I need to meet 32 people, if I meet, let's say, 10 a month, it's going to take me, in essence, just over 3 months to meet the 30 people. Therefore, it's going to take me maybe about 4 months to get the 2,000 additional revenue dollars that I'm looking for in my business. It's that clarity, the specifics of the goals, making them SMART goals, in other words,
Yeah.
that I think really helps the sales process. Because so often when I'm working with people, they go into the sales idea of, I need to sell more. Well, tell me what more is. What are we selling? And when do we define success? It's those types of things. So
Yeah.
does that help?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And your numbers are spot on. So what I like to say is, and I'll tell you how I started my business. This is a nice little story for your listeners, is that I knew I had to ramp up my business quickly. I had actually left my corporate job because I had given birth to my daughter and I knew I couldn't go back with the number of hours I had to work. So I started my business, and the way I catapulted it was I went to the local chambers of commerce. I did a 30-minute talk and offered free initial consultations. That's how I got in front of, in your numbers, 32 people a month. I would book these talks month after month after month. I would get in front of 32 people. I'd walk out of half of that room with sales conversations, 16 people, and you're right on target. I closed 4 people each time, each month. So your numbers are right on target when it comes to goals.
Well, thank you. It's nice to know that we're collaborating with each other here, complimenting each other. All right. So here's I'm going to do this as my last, maybe I've got 2 more questions.
Okay.
The next one is this: working with a mentor, someone like that. Have you worked with a mentor, and what did you take from that experience?
Oh my gosh, I've had many mentors, and I've had different mentors at different times in my business. And what I can tell you is that if you have something that you're aspiring to achieve, don't try to figure it out on your own. Just get the person that's doing it all day long and knows it, that can teach you the ropes, give you the step by step, walk you through any problems or roadblocks you're going to have. And absolutely. And I will tell you, if I didn't have mentors, I don't think I would have been able to start my business and generate revenue as quickly as I did if I didn't invest in mentors. So absolutely.
I love it. Having a mentor has been so helpful in my career. One, because I need someone that can provide a safe space for me to just kind of open up and share my frustrations, deal with my challenges, the insecurities, but at the same time, bolster me back up, fill up my tank, and kind of reassure me, you can get through this and you will do fine. But it's the accountability, them holding me accountable, but them also giving me instructions on, these are the best practices. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's plenty of people that have done this. I just need to find that system and apply it in my own business. And so I don't need to feel as if it's on me, on my shoulders to create all this. So I liked how you describe mentors, different ones at different times for different reasons. Very well said. All right. So here's my last question
All
for
right.
you. What is something that you're thankful for, and why?
Oh my gosh. I am thankful for, and I'll be honest with you, every failure I've had in the last 12 years of my business, I am thankful for. Here's why: because the failures have taught me the things that I needed to know in the fastest way possible. I probably would have taken the time and messed around and not focused on what I needed to. But when you fail, wow, that's like a brick to the head. Like, I got to learn this and I got to figure it out fast. My failures have only catapulted me in my business year over year over year. So I am thankful for my failures.
Excellent. There's a difference between failure and quitting.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I don't mind failures, but it's when you finally just say, I'm done. That's
Yeah.
the quit. So,
Yeah.
well said. Debra, you are incredible. I knew coming on that this was going to be fun. You bring so much energy and enthusiasm. You're just a positive energy force out there, and you're so I think it's contagious. You're so enthusiastic that I just knew this conversation was going to go over very well. I love the insights that you provide. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this up, and then I'm going to come back to you for a closing thought. And as I wrap this up, one of the things I want to start with is she shared earlier that there is this gift that I'd like you to take advantage of. Going to the episode description, you will find there information on how you can get and download the 6 secret questions to close more sales and get paid what you're worth. These are strategic selling tips. These are selling with confidence concepts that you need to be familiar with. And one of the things that I want you to see is that you can learn more about those. Download that list that she's providing to you as a listener and take advantage of those in your own business. The other thing I would also point out is she is involved, as I am, with Profit First Professionals. If you're not familiar with that or would like to learn more, I'm going to put some information there on the book Profit First, written by Mike Michalowicz. Great man, wonderful program, excellent opportunity to consider using this as a template to offer more advisory services. So you're going to learn a little bit more about that. And like I said, these are all things that you can actually apply in your business to help you become more effective in your selling. Basically, strategic selling principles and selling with confidence using these 6 steps that she's providing. Now, with that, let me just kind of do a summary. Debra, obviously did a great job today of just kind of encapsulating for us the whole idea of sales. It is a process. It's something that's deliberate. There are proven techniques. She's giving us some excellent steps that we can follow when having conversations. But the thing that I really enjoyed is the fact that she was genuine in her sharing of that. We just need to, as accounting professionals, just be comfortable in our own skin and just enjoy the conversations we're having with these potential customers. And what she's doing is she's giving us the information we need to know and kind of review before going into those conversations to empower ourselves to have a deliberate conversation with the intent of closing that deal. And like I said earlier, nothing happens until you make a sale. So let's get the companies that we need, the clients that we deserve, so we can get paid what we're worth. Now, with that being said, one of the other things that I thought was very helpful is she talked about what she was thankful for, and she spoke of failures. I don't think we need to be afraid of the failures. It's where we learn. It's where we get better. It's from that we get the experience. And honestly, it's from those things that we'll be able to better relate to our potential customers and help them realize that we've kind of gone through the school of hard knocks as well. We are peers to them as business owners, and we can actually help them now avoid some of the minefields that we've perhaps experienced as well. So you have every right to get into the game and enjoy these business relationships. So thank you for that. So Debra, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
If your listeners can just walk into and embrace a little bit of a different mindset around sales conversations, here's what it really boils down to, is you're giving the gift of clarity on these conversations. Your business owners are coming to these conversations confused and with problems that they don't know how to solve. And by asking those very specific questions, diving deeper, you give these people a gift. The gift of clarity is that what they walk away with by talking with you. And that's how you become memorable.
Only accountants get into business to do accounting. Everybody else got into business for something else. We're able to free them up to do what they like. And I liked how you described that. So thank you. This is what I'm going to do. Everyone, obviously, thank you for listening to this episode. Debra was an amazing guest, shared with us some incredible information. Go to the episode description and find those free resources that we were sharing. There's some additional ones there that you can take advantage of. Also, I want to invite you to come to GrowCon. It's our live event every year that we do as a conference to help you actually work on your business and become the accountrepreneur you need to be. But always remember this: if it's about accounting, it is universal. So listen to our episodes, subscribe to the podcast, and get notifications as to when we have new episodes that come out. They're weekly, they're with the experts, and they're meant to actually help you with the things that you need to focus on to build the premier accounting firm in your area. Now, for more information about this and other principles that you can apply in your business, feel free to visit us at universalaccounting.com or give us a phone call. You can reach us at 801-265-3777. And take care, be safe out there, and always remember, accounting success is universal.